Guy Halpern here for the Sports Insanity Network. We have our normal show, but before we go, I got to give a massive shout out to a guy that is going to be coming on the network, is going to be doing some stuff with us. Joe Knapp from Hat Trick Breaks last night had an amazing break with the dugout of Millwood. We did a wrestling break, and he pulled me this guy named John Cena, who apparently is a bad guy now. So, Joe, thank you guys for your best wrestling breaks out there. Hat Trick Breaks is where you need to be. Okay, wrestling's over. Now back to baseball. And we're going to turn it over to our baseball professional, Mike Riskin.
Just one quick thing on the wrestling. Face turn, Elimination Chamber recap on the YouTube page. Went live late last night. Check it out after you check this out. But as Mark mentioned, we are here to talk about baseball. We're going to preview the Central divisions this week. Next week, we will do the Eastern divisions. Last week, we did the Wests. So, Mark, it is March 2nd. We are
Can't believe it. And we're coming in with a roar.
And we are T minus 25 days away from the start of another Major League Baseball season.
I'm excited. This is going to be a fun season.
Yeah. So, again, we'll go over the Central divisions in a little bit. We are also, since you got a couple of Met fans in the room, we're going to talk about the other team in New York. The Yankees have some injury issues we'll get into. And somewhere Bill Murphy is crying in his sleep, but that's a whole nother conversation. Let's start with news that came down yesterday. We are not going to get into the political landscape of it. We are just going to talk strictly baseball. President Donald Trump has pardoned the former all-time hit king Pete Rose. And now Major League Baseball is mulling the family's request to have Pete Rose removed from the ineligible list, which would make him eligible for the Hall of Fame. This is an article on ESPN.com. Commissioner Rob Manfred is considering a petition filed on January 8th by Pete Rose's family to have the Major League Baseball's all-time hit leader posthumously removed from baseball's ineligible list. Multiple sources with knowledge of the situation told ESPN on Saturday. Jeffrey Lenkov, a Los Angeles lawyer who represented Rose prior to his death at age 83 in late September, said he filed the reinstatement petition after he and Fawn Rose, the oldest daughter of Pete, met with Manfred and MLB spokesman Pat Courtney in the commissioner's office on December 17th. Yeah, and look, it was declined. We've heard all the stories. I personally, and then Mark, I'll get to you because I believe in, if I'm wrong, you got to watch a little bit of the career of Pete Rose.
Yes, a little bit. Not
no. I'm not. Parts. And by the way, it was not an age joke, people. I want that clear. I wish when it comes to something like this, they would have done it when he was alive. These are the kinds of things and because of why he is suspended or why he's on the ineligible list. He's not on the ineligible list because of steroids. He's not on the ineligible list because of, murdering someone or some sort of weird allegation. He's on there because of gambling. And now, think about this. We talk about this all the time. Every commercial when you watch a ball game is DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, whatever it may be. So if you're going to embrace gambling on one side, you can't, and I know it wasn't legal when Pete Rose did it, but now it's just like, Now it's okay. We don't care. You can't be like that, in my opinion.
Mike put it as nicely as he could. I did see a little bit of Pete Rose's career. And even though he says it wasn't an age joke, that I know was a little jab at the old ops guy. But that's okay, because that's how we have fun
It
on the
really
network.
wasn't, to be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. No, no. No, this is what is needed. And this is what has been needed, not just yesterday, a decade ago.
Yeah.
Okay. Mike hit on it perfectly when he said that this should have been done when Pete Rose was alive, as he did pass away recently. His family deserves the honor. He deserves the honor. And now that Rob Manfred has finally got literally almost the entire baseball population now is going to weigh down on this. He's now reviewing the bid to reinstate. This is the most right thing that has to be done in baseball right now. Pete Rose, not just as a personality, but he holds more records that are almost going to be impossible to break. He was one of the most competitive players in baseball, also one of the more violent ones too. But it's Pete Rose. Baseball, 1970, part of that great Cincinnati Reds and everything. It's Pete Rose. Gets his just desserts, but he's not going to be there to feel the warmth. And that's just the only sad part about
We talk about the Hall of Fame, and we talk about this often when it comes to the steroid guys. The Hall of Fame is a museum of baseball excellence. No one personified excellence more than your all-time hits leader. And that's Pete Rose. You talked about the ultimate competitor. How about in the All-Star game running over the American League catcher in an All-Star game? In today's game, that's unheard of.
it. Right.
Like, the guy deserves deserved his day in Cooperstown because it shouldn't have been. There wasn't going to be a black cloud over his playing career based on what he did post that when it came to managing and the gambling and whatnot. Especially now when you have embraced sports gambling. We have embraced DraftKings, FanDuel, BetMGM, whatever it is. By the way, all not a sponsor. There you go, Patch. But that's the frustration I have is we have now as a society embraced sports gambling. Now, was it wrong for Pete Rose to gamble against his own team? Sure, absolutely. But at the same time, he paid the punishment. And the ultimate punishment now is if he is reinstated, is he doesn't get his day. The family gets their day, but Pete Rose, the guy we should celebrate, doesn't get his day. And to me, that's the biggest loss for Major League Baseball here.
If you want to compare this to another thing, think back to when the MLB greats came out onto the field and Ted Williams was embraced as he was wheeled out in his wheelchair and everything. Because
That was the
Pete
99 All
Rose,
Star game, correct?
yes, Pete Rose, I mean, not that he needs to be wheeled out in a wheelchair. I mean, he deserved his moment, but the family will at least get to endure it.
Yeah. So we can only hope Rob Manfred does the right thing. see what happens. But Pete Rose, the family's filed for reinstatement again. He's been pardoned by the president, and we get into other aspects of baseball now.
Yep.
Now, in honor of Dan is not here with us. He's watching somewhere cheering. We do have to mention the Yankees a little bit because the Yankees have some injury news on their front. It has been announced that designated hitter Giancarlo Stanton is going to start the season on the injured list with injuries to both his elbows. Luis Heel, last year's American League Rookie of the Year, threw a bullpen session the other day. That got shut down when he felt some tightness in his shoulder. And just because I have to, DJ LeMahieu apparently tweaked his ankle yesterday, and Aaron Boone does not know the severity of the injuries as of yet. So, I mean, let's start with the Stanton one. Because Stanton, at this point in his career, we know what he is. He's going to hit you maybe 240, 250, and he hits the tar out of the baseball.
Yes.
But, Mark, this year especially, with losing Juan Soto, Stanton getting hurt this early is not good for the New York Yankee lineup.
No, we're used to the one name we hear every year is on the IL every season that he's been a Yankee. So it doesn't surprise me that Stanton's going to start on the IL. LeMahieu coming over has been on the IL a few times with the Yankees. This is not a good look for a team that's going to be trying to repeat as AAL East tops. It's going to put them into a little bit more competitiveness, and a lot of weight is going to be put back on Aaron Judge again. And he's going to be asked to carry this team. Aaron Judge right now, I mean, the Yankees lineup isn't crap by far. They got hitters through free agency, but not that Stanton has been reliable. However, he hits the ball. It has a chance to go somewhere. And that's what makes him so dangerous. So right now you're looking at Bellinger to kind of protect Judge a little bit. And that's not going to be enough. It's going to be, you're going to need a lot of resurgence is not the word. You're going to need Jason Dominguez to have an amazing start to the year. Anthony Volpe is going to have to start out like he did last year. You're asking a lot to put on rookies to come into the, let's call it what it is, the biggest franchise in baseball. It's the most named. It's unfortunately the most loved, but let's call it as it is. This is a lot of weight to put on not only rookies, but your $400 million contract player who's going to go all out to make sure this team wins. We got to hope he doesn't end up on the IL. Sorry, Mike.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head because here's the thing. We don't even know how the Yankees are going to line this thing up because there's been talks Volpe's going to lead off or Dominguez is going to lead off. Well, now all of a sudden without Stanton, how do you fit does Judge hit 2 again? Does Judge hit 3? How are we going to protect him? Because we don't know who's playing third base. Can we really put Jason Dominguez in a spot to protect Aaron Judge right now? Because we don't know what he is. Are we going to put Austin Wells in that spot? Goldschmidt, who had a down year last year, are we going to expect him to go and be protection for Judge? This lineup, and it's not just the Soto loss. It's just the fact that this team, outside of Aaron Judge and really Stanton, Like, we don't know who can step up. We don't know what Jason Dominguez is. We don't know what you're going to get out of Cody Bellinger. We don't know what you're going to get out of Paul Goldschmidt.
Forgot about him.
Right?
Sorry.
Everybody else outside of Aaron Judge in this lineup is a question mark. And that's going to be a massive issue because guess what? If they don't hit, and there were times last year they didn't hit outside of Judge and Soto, guess what? I'm going to pitch around Aaron Judge. I'm going to make Austin Wells, Dominguez, Volpe, Goldschmidt, whoever it is, that guy has to beat me. It can't be Aaron Judge.
And that's also a big problem. Aaron Judge had to endure this last year
No.
when he was the focus of everything. How much more can you put on this guy's shoulders? I mean, we don't know how long they're going to be out for. It doesn't mean they're out for the whole season. But the one thing, if you're in the AL East, is having to climb the ladder from the bottom, being so far behind, could become a problem.
And especially because it's Stanton. Like DJ LeMahieu, I'm going to leave off for a second. Stanton, we knew at some point was going to go on the injured list because he's going to pull a hamstring. It's just a given at this point. But to start the year on the injured list with issues in both his elbows, when he's a guy who doesn't even play the outfield at this point, that's scary to me.
The one thing, I would like to know about on the Yankees end is what's the insurance policy on this guy? I want to know how much the Yankees are actually getting back in insurance wise, because teams do, if players miss, whether it's the entire season from spring training or whatnot, they do get some money back from players if they have insurance on the player. So I'm kind of curious.
Well, remember, he didn't sign this deal with the Yankees. He signed this deal with the Marlins, and the Yankees took on this deal as a favor to Derek Jeter when he
Right.
was running things for the Marlins. So it's a really interesting question. And look, I thought Brian Cashman had a really good offseason. I really did. I thought Bellinger was a nice piece to get. I thought bringing in Goldschmidt was nice. The thing is this. I don't know who's protecting Aaron Judge. Like, while the lineup could be deeper, I still have that question of what happens if or when Stanton gets there. And you got to hope he can last till the deadline. Well, it won't come to fruition. And the other piece of this is the Luis Hill news. I mean, everyone knows you need more than 5 starters in today's Major League Baseball because someone's always going to get hurt. But this is one, Mark, where the Yankees have Garrett Cole, who had an elbow issue last year.
Right.
Carlos Rodon is like riding a roller coaster. He's up and down. Who knows what you're going to get out of Max Fried, who I think is a good pitcher. Now, all of a sudden, a guy who claimed he wasn't going to pitch out of the bullpen, Marcus Stroman, now all of a sudden, Marcus Stroman plays a huge role.
Right. And Stroman, I'm not going to discredit him, is hit or miss. He either has a decent season or a poor season. So it's going to depend on what version the Yankees are going to get at.
Yeah, so we'll have to see what happens. And then obviously we hope the best. And if we get any updates when we do next week's Eastern Division previews,
We should have more news on
we
that.
should have more information regarding Heel and LeMahieu, who is battling for the third base job. Stanton, I don't think we're going to get an update on Stanton for a while.
Probably not.
So, all right, let's dive in. We got the Central Divisions today. Where do you want to start, American or national?
Let's go American since we're just talking about the Yankees.
All right, we are real Americans. So let's start with the team who the Yankees beat to get to the World Series, the Cleveland Guardians, who won this division again last year. We know how good their bullpen is, and that was their big strength until the ALCS, where the Yankees. Well, actually, if you want to go back, postseason as a whole, the Tigers played them tough too. That bullpen. So,
Yes.
all right. Anyway, for Cleveland, what they did, they re-signed Shane Bieber to a 1-year deal. Remember, he missed most last year with Tommy John. They also brought back the great guitar player known as Carlos Santana. He signed a
Mhm.
1-year deal. Mets legend Paul Sewald comes over on a 1-year deal. That adds to that bullpen. A couple of other things. And then they added right-handed pitcher Slade Ciccone from the Diamondbacks in a trade for Josh Naylor. And Mark, the other thing about the Cleveland Guardians is I still think they have the most underappreciated superstar in the game in Jose
And
Ramirez.
yes, we've talked about that many a times, and you're 100% right. He does not get the attention that a Aaron Judge or a David Ortiz got. He deserves it. I mean, the guy has. I mean, if you look at his stats, it says it all. I don't have to go into it in particular. But one name, obviously, Emmanuel Class, it's still one of the top closers in baseball.
Best closer in baseball.
And he comes out on the mound. I wouldn't want to know what the odds would be on FanDuel, but something tells me we would lose money for him coming out to get the close because it's almost a guarantee.
Well, here's the thing, and they're the team that does this perfectly. If you got the lead after 5 innings, that bullpen is just like, shut the door. We're gonna figure this thing out. We're gonna win. But the question every year is, how are they going to score runs? And every year they find a way. But we
They're in a tough
Broncos.
position.
Yeah.
They're in a tough position. You still got Ramirez. You got Bo Naylor, who came on last year, which was good. So you
Yes.
got a hitter in him. You got we
Stephen
and
Kwan
then
is a
Stephen
really
Kwan,
nice piece.
right? And Stephen Kwan. They have guys who can hit, including Mike's favorite musical player. They just have to get it in the right order that makes sense. And any manager will tell you it's not easy putting together the perfect lineup on the first attempt.
I, I hope for their sake, Bo Naylor really develops
Yes.
because to me, the one thing they are missing, and I just said how much I love Jose Ramirez, they are missing that one big power bat. If they were the team, and I'm not saying this to be funny, like they're the team to me that I look at and I go, if Toronto's out of it at the trade deadline, give me a half a year, Vlad Guerrero at first base in Cleveland across from Jose Ramirez. And I'm like, that's a really
That's
good 3
scary to think
4.
about. That's scary to think about.
Right. But that to me would make me believe that this team can actually win the World Series.
One more bet like someone like Guerrero, yeah, could propel them into that direction.
Yeah. Well, think about it. In 2016, what did the lineup look like? Well, they had Ramirez, they had a Francisco Lindor, they had, Michael Brantley, I believe, was still a member of that team at that point. They had guys who not only could hit for average, but they had guys who could hit for power.
Right.
And I think right now that's the one thing this team lacks is a little bit of power. But see what happens. Again, Cleveland won the division last year. We are not making predictions today. That'll come in a couple of weeks when we do a whole prediction show. The team that finished in second place also lost to the New York Yankees in the American League Division Series, but really shocked the world. Just like when Lord wrote the song, or when we found out Stan Marsh was not Stan Marsh, Randy Marsh was actually Lord.
We're not in South Park.
The Kansas City Royals, 86 and 76. Their notable acquisitions include Jonathan India, who they got in a trade from the Reds. Carlos Estevez gets added to the bullpen. Michael Lorenzen re-upped, and they acquired Joey Wiemer in a trade with the Reds. But Mark, the thing about the Royals is they have the guy who also finished second in MVP voting, and Bobby Witt Jr.
And no, no disrespect to his father, Bobby Witt, who I saw play. His son is a lot better. No disrespect. Bobby Witt Jr. is on his way. He's actually there. I'm not going to say that as an all-star. This kid developed well. He transitioned to the major leagues well, and he makes that lineup stronger. You also have one of my favorite batters in Salvi Perez. I mean, I have loved watching him play
Future
no
Hall of
matter.
Famer.
Oh, absolutely. Um, I've enjoyed watching him play because even though he's been in the league so long, everybody treats him still with the top respect because he can cover a ball even at his age and, time he's played. You got, excuse me, you also have MJ Melendez, who had a nice season last year, not, you know,
Mm.
top marks, but guys are picking up. You mentioned the pickup of Jonathan India, which because he was on the Reds, he was almost like invisible to the MLB in a way. Now he's on a team like the Royals. He's going to get seen more, and I think he's going to start earning the respect he should have, not just as a hitter, but as a fielder as well.
Man, that double play combo between him and Bobby Witt.
Yeah.
And then let's just go again, pitching. How about the year last year Seth Lugo had? He was awesome last year.
That
Can
was the
he
biggest kick to the balls ever.
can he replicate that? Can Michael Walker replicate what he gave them? That's going to be the question for me on Kansas City. Can
In
the
your
start
entire, yeah.
can the starting pitching replicate what they did a year ago?
I'm not worried about Cole Regans.
No, the
Seth
young guys I'm not.
Lugo,
It's Lugo and it's Walker.
yeah, Waka. Lorenzen's going to have to step up big time.
And there's some part of me that was like, man, they're a team that I thought, you know what? Maybe they're the team that slides in on a team that's selling at the deadline or a starting pitcher. Maybe a guy like we'll get into the team in a little bit. Sonny Gray could be someone of interest. That would be the kind of guy if I'm the Royals. I kind of like because I just don't know what I'm going to get out of Lugo and Waka. But the Royals, we'll see what happens. Also, the quarterback of their football team's pretty good still too. And then there's the Detroit Tigers, who came on strong at the end of the year, gave Cleveland all they could handle in the ALDS. AJ Hinch, great manager. What they did this offseason, Jack Flaherty comes back after being there. I think he was there last year until the trade to the Dodgers. They brought in Gleyber Torres on a 1-year deal. Alex Cobb, Tommy Canley, Andrew Chafe into that bullpen, that glorious mustache. Mark, the Tigers, they're on the prowl.
We talked about the Tigers last year a lot. And even in the beginning, just like in spring training, all of us had much higher expectations. And they even went higher than what we thought by making it to the playoffs. This team with Tyreek Skubal as your ace, I mean, that's just one name. They're going to need more out of Casey Mines. He's going to have a much better, solid season. But Mike, you hit the one name is Glaber Torres.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, this guy's not a 50 home run hitter. But if one thing, if he's learned how to play in the worst audience and still come out as a decent player. Now you're going to bring him into the Detroit Tigers, where you're not going to have as many boo birds out there. He's going to be cheered, and that's just going to do a lot for his morale. And any player who feels the warmth from the crowd always seems to do better. Obviously, Riley Green is going to have to play a big role. Jason Young. This team, what it has going for them is they are young. And this is a core that's going to be together for a couple of years. I don't know what Glaber, it's a 1 year deal or not. I'm not sure.
Yeah, 1 year for
But
Blake.
I would figure if he has a good enough season, they're going to try to extend him because of his age and try to keep this young core together.
Glaber Torres is 28 years old.
Okay, so he's entering his
He's
quote
just
unquote
entering
prime.
his prime.
Right.
But here's the thing for me, Detroit on Glaber. I think there's two things. One, the power numbers aren't going to be what they were at Yankee Stadium, just based on the dimensions of Comerica Park. Two, I'm not sure AJ Hinch is going to let the little gaffes go, the lack of hustle at times, the fundamentals. I don't think he's going to let that stuff slide, so I'd be very careful from Glaber on that. The guy who they really need to figure out is Spencer Torkelson.
The most talked about rookie they have in their organization. I mean, I don't want to say rookie, he didn't play a full season last year, but I still call him a prospect. We need to know what Spencer Torkelson is
Yeah.
and can he bring what was expected. If
He
he
had that.
does, the Tigers are going to be a very tough line.
Uh, not last year, but 2 years ago, he had that great second half. We thought, okay, here he comes. He's going to have a big year last year. It never came. So this is the bat they need to figure out. Because if they don't, guess what happens? They're going to be in the market for another first baseman. And quite frankly, another bat. This guy was a number one pick. And I'm not saying he has to be the perfect number one pick, but he needs to start producing. That's what they need. And then you mentioned Skubal at the top. Like that 1-2 of Skubal and Flaherty, pretty good.
Yes.
So Detroit's got the starting pitching. Eventually they'll get Casey Mize back, so we'll go from there. And then there's a Chicago one. I'm sorry we skipped the Twins. I apologize, Minnesota. But all you did this offseason was bring in Harrison Bader on a 1 year deal and Ty France on a 1 year deal.
You know, we always talk about the poor Twins in the bad light, but they never do anything to make them in the good light either.
Well, here's the thing.
Unless they're being coached by a little kid.
That's true. Great movie. Little Big League. I like the Bader signing because now maybe you move Byron Buxton to a corner, keep him healthy. That's important. You're going to have to keep Carlos Correa healthy. But do the Twins, my thing on the Twins is I still don't know if they have enough on the pitching side. Pablo Lopez came over from the Marlins. He's pitched well. But outside of that, like their rotation is.
Joe Ryan has experience, but the way Mike described it's a balancing of a scale that has no center.
Here's the thing about the Twins. Like, would I be shocked if they won this division? No. Would I be shocked if they finished in fourth place again? Also, no. they don't have the pieces to me that make me say, man, they're a legitimate contender in the American League.
I mean, if any player out there is one to watch, it's Royce Lewis, who it was their number one prospect and now
Yeah.
is in the majors. So, I mean, if anything to watch and to give this team a little bit of life, maybe some energy, this kid can provide.
Yeah, Royce Lewis, and keep Byron Buxton healthy. That
Yes.
needs to be a priority. And then there's the Chicago White Sox. Well, they added pieces. Martin Perez, Austin Slater, Mike Talkman, Bryce Wilson, Josh Strauss, Michael A. Taylor. All these guys are on 1 year deals, but here's the thing. They trade Garrett Crochet, and now we're just waiting on when they're going to trade Luis Robert.
Right. And Luis Robert has been, mentioned a lot in this offseason as a possible trade target for many teams. It just hasn't turned that way because White Sox apparently have asked from several teams a lot more than he wanted.
And don't worry, White
Um,
Sox fans.
this team reminds me of the Major League movie team right now. This is a bunch of guys who have been just slammed together. You got some hot shots, you got some veterans, you got some rookies. I hate to call it like that, and I apologize if I offended any White Sox fans, but this is what it looks like to me.
It really looks like just stuff that's thrown together. You're right. Look, I even think White Sox fans understand what this team is right now because what they've had to go through the last, or what they went through last year, but they were so good, or they looked so good a couple of years ago. And now it's just like, what the hell are we? And I don't know what the farm system looks like. I don't know how beautiful the other side of the rainbow is. But man, they are going to be in deep trouble. Again, sorry,
Uh,
White Sox fans.
uh, Unfortunately, this is the team is turning out like we've seen, like when the Dodgers were in trouble and weren't doing anything. Could this be the next team that MLB steps in and does what it does?
Ah, you would hope, but who knows? With Jerry Reinsdorf, I mean, he's also 89 years old, so they may step in. But again, I don't know the logistics with the family and stuff also. So sorry, White Sox fans. All right. On to the National League Central. A division one yet again, somehow in some way, by the Milwaukee Brewers. And this offseason, the Brewers did what the Brewers do. They traded Devin Williams to the New York Yankees in exchange for Nestor Cortez. Outside of that, they added a couple of other pitchers, and they gave former Met legend Mark Canha a minor league deal.
That had to have been a little bit of a hurt to his ego.
Well, by the way, Mark Canha, I believe, wasn't he traded to the Brewers by the Mets?
No, oh wait, that was Ken. I was thinking Bassett when I was talking. I was about to say Toronto. I think you might be right.
Yeah. So, look, they find a way every year to be competitive. Last year, Pat Murphy won Manager of the Year. I think this is the year that we thought the Brewers were going to have last year. Not that they're going to be bad, but they're not going to win 90 games. I just don't see how.
I mean, you got Milwaukee, so obviously we're talking. The one name everyone's want to watch is Jackson Churio. What's this kid going to do this season?
Oh, man.
You got
How good was he last year?
Absolutely. You have the most veteran of players who I thought, I'm not going to say hope, I thought was going to hang it up, but has come back another year. And that's Christian Yelich. My question is, I have a lot of respect for him. He's been one of the most consistent hitters in baseball over the last decade. He's a fan favorite all over. The question to me is, after the injury played season last year, what's the point? It's adding on, you're trying to add on to your legacy. I know you want with this team and knowing how far it could possibly go, you want that one more chance. But over the last few years, injuries have been a big concern with him. And I truly hope he has an injury free season because when he is on, there's no better hitter in baseball.
I would say this too. I wonder if you transition him. I wonder if you start to transition him into the DH and be like, look, as much as we love what you've given us out in left field, I think it's time for you to become the DH. We're going to try to keep you as healthy as we can. Here's your new role. Very similar to what I would like to see the Angels do with Mike Trout, because it's better if they could stay healthy. So just DH them. You know, Trout's moving to right field. I think eventually the DH thing will come for him. I think for Yelich, especially because it's always his back, just let it roll. DH him. You brought up Churio before. He's going to have a bigger impact. Rhys Hoskins
Just about to
last
say
year
him.
had such a huge impact on this lineup, hitting 35 homers or whatever it was. Look, and they let Willie Adames go because they believe in this Joey Ortiz, who they got in the Corbin Burns trade.
Right.
And then they have these other young guys who love to run. Churio, all the second basemen,
Terang.
Bryce Turang, amongst others. So they manufacture runs as well as anybody too.
Right. And not to skip him over, Caleb Durbin had a nice season also. Not one that would stand out in the top of your heads, but he put together a season that is promising. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And then look, pitching wise, look, Freddie Peralta's really good when he wants to be. He's also had issues with walks at times. What are you going to get out of Nestor Cortez? Not sure. Like this rotation's a question mark too. Maybe they get Brandon Woodruff back at some point. That'd be huge for them. But the Brewers are in a really interesting spot. Were you going to say something or are you good?
No, no, no,
Oh,
no, no. Sorry.
no. And then there's the St. Louis Cardinals who've added absolutely nobody in free agency. So
They've let more people go than they've
they
brought
let
in.
Goldschmidt walk. Andrew Kittredge is gone. They still have some guys on the free agent market. Matt Carpenter, Kyle Gibson, Lance Lynn, and Kenyon Middleton. And then there's the Nolan Arenado trade discussions. We've heard that a lot this offseason. It hasn't happened yet, but something they're looking to do is shed some more payroll.
Taking a look at the St. Louis Cardinals, Paul Goldschmidt, leaving as as much as a lot of people think that's a big deal, he's coming to the end of his career at 37 years old. That's why him going to the Yankees actually makes sense because if he hits a fly ball that he's been hitting in St. Louis, at least that's going to go out in Yankee Stadium. Mason Wynn, large new bar with the greatest name in baseball. And as long as this guy can stay healthy, Jordan Walker, he could have a very, very good year to help propel this offense.
They need him.
He
He's
was
another
injured.
guy like Torkelson
Right.
top prospect, hasn't panned out yet.
He was injured, then came back up, and then had a bad stint up, so he was sent back down. They need him to be the prospect they had in their mind.
Yeah, look, this is unless they surprise a ton of people, this is not going to be the Cardinal team we expect because they look like they're rebuilding after going for it for so long. You know, you brought up Walker. He's Mason Wynn at shortstop. Looks like he could be a player.
Right.
You know, again, we'll see what happens with the Arenado situation. The other question is going to be this: who's pitching for this team?
Right now, it's Sonny Gray,
It's Sonny Gray and a
Fred,
bunch of
Nicholas.
dudes.
I mean,
And
it's,
Sonny Gray's another one. By the deadline, we're going to imagine he's gone.
I would think so.
The way things are looking. I mean, Cardinals, they're in the act of selling some things. Their biggest rival, though, the Cubs were active this winter. In two separate trades with the Houston Astros, they brought in Kyle Tucker and Ryan Presley. They also signed Matthew Boyd. Eli Morgan will help with the bullpen. And they just brought in Met legend Justin Turner, amongst other moves. All right. I'm going to sit here because I thought the Cubs were going to be better than they were last year. I don't think there is a team in this division with more pressure on itself than the Chicago Cubs. Milwaukee, we talked about it. The Cardinals, we just talked about. We'll get into the Pirates and Reds in a minute. But the Cubs went out. They got Craig Counsell. They fired David Ross for Craig Counsell. They were extremely active. They bring in a guy like Kyle Tucker, who they think is a missing piece in their lineup, and I love Kyle Tucker.
Good right fielder.
And should be a 3,000 guy. You brought in Dansby Swanson over the past couple of years. You've been active on these fronts. At some point, it has to pay off for the Cubs. Otherwise, we're going to have to revisit these deals and see what goes on in the future.
When you look at the Cubs, the name that stands out is Shota Imran. Is he going to have the same season he had last year, the same, you know, record? He's got a good, the Cubs got a good pitching staff with Steele right behind him and then Jameson Taillon. So the pitching is there. This lineup has to protect these pitchers by getting on the board and getting on the board early. I mean, like Mike has pointed out, Anthony Swanson. How about Ian Happ last year?
Yeah.
There wasn't a day you didn't hear his name being talked about when it came to the Cubs. And then the man who believes his helmet was a legal part of the body to tag a base, Nets rookie Pico Armstrong, who could have a very big productive year. So it's really all on the Cubs to do what they can do. I mean, if not, if the Cubs are faltering, could we see names being traded off at the trade deadline for them?
And here's going to be the other question. If the Cubs aren't what we think they can be, I don't think we're going to hear Craig Counsell on the hot seat, but what about Jed Hoyer?
Could be.
I mean, that's going to be the interesting conversation here. So, again, no predictions today. I'm just saying the Cubs have a ton of pressure. Then there's the Pittsburgh Pirates, which means one thing. Sup, Paul Skeens. But the Pirates additions this offseason, Andrew McCutcheon's coming back for one last year. They acquired Spencer Horwitz to play first base. And then they brought in a bunch of guys on one-year deals, including Tommy Pham, Andrew Heaney. and former Pirate Adam Frazier returned. So, Mark, thoughts on the Buccos?
You know, obviously Mike has already, alluded to the name that anybody's going to associate with the Pittsburgh Pirates, and that's Ace Paul Skeens. Um, I like the fact that they brought back McCutcheon. This is where he started. This is where he'll hopefully retire. Let this be a last year going out for him. Last year wasn't a bad season for a guy in his age either. Um, you gotta hope that O'Neill Cruz and Cabrian Hayes return to the bat that they were displaying when they first came up. They need all of the help in this lineup to propel this team. It can't be one guy because there is no one guy that can carry this team.
Right.
This has to be a team effort, as much as you use that word.
And look, you're right. O'Neill Cruz, I believe, he got hampered with an ankle last year, I believe, right? Or was that 2 years
Yes.
ago? Yeah. So you got him. You're right on Key Brian Hayes. That kid can defend his ass off, but his offense leaves little to be desired at this point. Brian Reynolds, underrated player, very good. But this comes, look, you know what you're going to get out of Paul Skeens. We'll see how the league adjusts to Paul Skeens and see if he'll adjust back to the league. But Jared Jones also at the top of this rotation. The Pirates got something in the rotation. Question's going to be, can this lineup score enough runs? Or will they be walking the plank there, matey?
Only from the pun master.
That's what I do. And then there's
That
the
is what he does.
Cincinnati Reds, who have the envy of every team in baseball with how fun and young they are. But
Exactly.
they brought
Best
in,
way that could have been said.
yeah, they brought in Nick Martinez, who accepted the qualifying offer. Brady Singer, who was straight for Jonathan India. Gavin Lux, who they brought in a trade with the Dodgers. Taylor Rogers, if you don't know who he's the really tall lefty who throws the submarine style for the
The
Giants.
sidearm, like Chad Bradford used to think.
Yeah. And then I think two of the more interesting signings, Austin Hayes, the former Baltimore Oriole, who's young and got a lot of speed, and Scotty Barlow, who's going to go into that bullpen, who was the closer for Kansas City for a time being. But Mark, we don't talk Reds without talking Ellie De La Cruz.
I have never seen. That's not true. Let me rephrase. Ellie De La Cruz is a once in a lifetime player that you get to see. I'm lucky I got to see two. I got to see Ricky Henderson and I got to see this kid play. Ellie De La Cruz is not a kid out there playing for money because you can see the smiles, you see everything. They are having fun. That's what it is. It's a game. Yes, you get paid millions of dollars to play it, but it's a game. There is nobody better on the base pass in baseball. And now you look at this team that's built around him. Obviously, he's going to lead off and do what he does. Gavin Lux, I think, was a great bring over from the Dodgers.
Yeah.
Not your 3,100 type guy, but he's going to give you decent numbers. Austin Hayes, absolutely, absolutely a smart trade. Candelaria, it's the DH. I like it. It's a good bat. But I think the name that has to be, if there was a worry on this team, is Hunter Green. Because this is the guy who transitioned from a relief pitcher to a starter. And yeah, he showed signs of greatness last year, but he also showed signs of why he was a relief pitcher.
I, I think
How
that
long are we going to try this out before saying, look, he was better where he was?
I like this rotation led by Hunter Green. Andrew Abbott pitched well for them. They bring in Brady Singer, who is nothing like the wedding singer, but he's got electric stuff, was a top 10 pick. I, Look, this team disappointed point last year. And by the way, the most notable addition they made is the new manager in Terry Francona. These guys are going to know how to play the right way, and they're going to score some runs. I think this is going to be, in my opinion, the most exciting team in Major League Baseball in 2025.
I think it'll be the most talked about.
Yeah.
I think it's I think he's on the pace to do it, but I think he breaks 100 this year. Ellie De La Cruz 100 stolen bases.
We'll have to
I
see what
think he
happens.
was at. I think he finished close to 70. I don't think he broke 70 last year.
Oh, give me one
But if
second.
there's
I'll double
anybody
check.
in the league that can do it, it's him. The big question is he's got to stay healthy all season to be able to do something like this. And did they have to have someone behind him who's taken seriously so he can get those leads to take second, take third, and while he's at it, take home too. Why not?
I mean, he is just 23 years old.
Right.
And so last year, see if I can get the baseball reference up. He had 25 homers last year. We want the stolen bases.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm looking for. This is embarrassing.
Now my phone's just taking forever. 67.
Thank you.
25 homers, 76 RBI, 67 stolen bases.
He can do it.
You
And
know
I
what?
think it would be great for baseball if he does it.
But by the way, remember the scene in Major League where Willie Mays Hayes, Wesley Snipes, is hammering the gloves of every base he steals. That's what Ellie De La Cruz needs to do.
That's a great idea. Ellie De La Cruz, we know you're watching us because there's no two better guys to talk baseball than you. So there's your suggestion for the year. Hopefully you take it from us and give us a little credit.
And some of us had you in fantasy last year, so thanks for that too.
Oh, yeah, that did help.
All right. That'll do for the Central Division previews of the Batter Up podcast, sponsored by the Dugout Ability here on the Sports Insanity Network. Check out the podcast portion wherever you get your podcasts. If you like watching us on YouTube, sup, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. Check out the website, thesportsinsanitynetwork.com for great blogs, vlogs, planes, trains, and automobiles. Check out the socials. Twitter, S Insanity Real. We are also on Facebook, the Sports Insanity Network. Again, like, comment, subscribe on the YouTube page. All that jolly good stuff. Again, shout out Hat Trick Breaks.
Yes, Joe
Hat
Knapp
Trick
and Hat Trick
Breaks and
Breaks
Joe
will
Knapp.
be Joe Knapp will be joining us soon. We are going to have a wrestling break release from Joe Knapp last night that, as I said, produced the great turncoat, I guess now he's called, John. I guess you're going to see him more. Cena. I can't
Oh,
wait to
man.
get this card.
Man. All right. We'll talk to you all next week when we preview both the American and National League East. Until then, enjoy the weather. It's getting nice out. We're getting to
I know
shorts weather, people.
catch you whether on the flip side or not.